Hey guys, I hope you are fine. My name is Nosi. I'm a South African. I live in England. I don't like to share these videos when there is a light, but I struggle with light. It's winter time, or maybe I need to add some light when I'm recording these videos. So guys, I thought today let me share with you my journey, my professional and relocation journey. My professional journey is too long. I'm not young. As you might see, I'm not 20. So my professional journey will be too long, just as my CV is too long. But let's talk about my journey to overseas, working overseas, because I always share these things to empower, to educate, so that we learn and be careful from the mistakes that I've made. If you know me, you know that I did my master's degree in Scotland. And that time I wasn't relocating because I wanted to work overseas. No, I had a good job in South Africa. I was in a strategic post. But the mistake I did was to relocate for love that time, which put me into the second relocation now, which has been dramatic. And I thought, let me share this experience with you so that you learn. So let's not start it when I left. I used to be a deputy director at the Department of Social Development in the Eastern Cape in South Africa at the provincial office. So I was responsible for research, data, policy, how the relationship between research and policy making, policy development. There's always a relationship between research, policy development, monitoring, and evaluation. So they go hand in hand. So, but when I resigned, I was madly in love with someone who lived abroad in Schengen countries. Let's not go there, the first one. Let's talk about the second relocation. And let's start with application. The application to the agency was very easy. Some people, it has been difficult to be taken by the agencies. I don't know, mine was easy because within 1 day of sending my CV, it was accepted. Maybe also it worked on my advantage that I studied overseas, because usually if you've studied overseas, you can work, especially in social work. You can work here. That's why I had a video where I say to people, even if you didn't study social work, if you would like to go overseas and work as a social worker, which pays good than in our countries, so take a master's degree in social work. It's going to be 2 years. It's quite expensive, but it's going to help you. For me, I didn't have a scholarship, because if you have a scholarship, you have to go back to your country and serve. So I didn't intend to go back and serve. So I decided to pay for my studies, which was a lot of money. Now let's cut the story and talk about my relocation journey. Let's talk about the second relocation. So I did it with an agent. So I was interviewed by the lady that called from the agency, who liked me and who soon told me, after interviewing me, that in 3 days time I'm having an interview. I was excited, and she just told me what to look into. I did that. I prepared. In that 3 days I was ready. I'm trying to think before that. No, there was a written interview from the agency after they got to know me. Maybe in 3 days time there was a written one where they would give you a case study, so that you try and break it for them and tell them how you would deal with it. Because I was coming as a social worker. I always wanted to come as a social worker, get experience. So once I get experience, you can apply for any post because you are experienced and you're not throwing away your own experience. That was what was in my mind. So to cut the story short, what I did was I passed again the second interview, which was a written assignment or a written interview. Then the next week I proceeded now to meeting the real panelists. They were two. It was the stakeholder panelists, including someone who's an international social worker who's also relocated, and which made it easier. And then the real panel. I didn't think that they were going to ask me a question. The stakeholders thought they were going to get to know me, but they made it feel like an interview on its own, interview of the interview. So I got to the main interview now, where I will be selected and got a job. It was all white, and it was on Zoom, and my smile and my personality always speaks on my behalf on interviews. I've got a wonderful personality. God has blessed me with that one, so it always speaks for me when I cannot speak. So, okay, I also have brains because I've answered questions very well. I had examples made. I had my smile. I've got my personality. I was like this. I even joked, with, but don't overdo it. Know when and how to do it, exposing your personality. And if it's just not you, don't do it, So the panel loved me. And I think that was Thursday. I guess she came back to me on Monday and she told me that I'm proud of you. You got the job! That was as quick as that. Now, to cut the story short, I got excited, but I made one mistake. I resigned quickly because I thought my relocation will be easier. One thing that I'm warning you not to do not resign immediately. Of which they do tell you, but sometimes you don't trust them. But not that I didn't trust them. In my case, I wanted to get my money from government while I'm in South Africa, so that if there are issues, I sort them and also use it while I was in South Africa. I was coming to government. I was employed for the second time after coming from overseas, but in another province, when I went to South Africa for my own reasons. So I needed now to relocate again now. It was December. I was told early December that I passed the interview. I resigned in December. January, I have not returned for the job. My money is not coming out. February, my money is not coming out. I am not working. Now I'm facing unemployment and I'm running out of money, which is what I'm trying to warn you not to do. I got it in March. My money was stolen by SARS. There's some theft going on in SARS in South Africa, which will be revealed one day. SARS said it's pension funds' fault. Pension funds said it was SARS, but up until today, I never received my money. What they did, they said I must wait for the period of tax returns this year. By the time I wanted to fill in for tax returns, they have done it already for me because they stole from me. I've been experiencing this theft from SARS for a long time. So look after your money, guys, and look for advice. Let's also go back to the story. Still by March, even though I'm employed, the process is so slow. The process is so slow of me getting the sponsorship, and I can't apply for the visa because I need the sponsorship letter. And my police clearance has expired, which is a warning also at you. When you apply for a job overseas, look at your police clearance, because you pay only 170 or 140, whatever amount. But when now you have to quickly do it for the visa, you pay 4,000. I paid 4,900 because it has to be done within 5 days for my visa. So look after your police clearance, because I'll talk about the documents later that are needed, but let's talk about, in fact, I'm talking about my journey, so I have to mention this, that my police clearance has expired because the documents that I needed to go overseas were the TB test, which I did it in Cape Town in Centurion. I paid 2,500. There was the police clearance, which expired, and I had to pay 4,900. It was the passport, so have a passport. I'm a traveler, so my passport was already ready. So it was the visa. So, but in order to apply for a job, have your CV, have good references, people who are not lazy to talk on your behalf, and go to universities when they need information from universities, write to them. They would ask for a status report from the from the Council for Social Service Professions in South Africa. Yeah. So when my money came in March, it was not much, but I did it to renovate my house. To cut the story short, April, now I was starting the visa process. Then I traveled in May. The first challenge that I experienced at the airport was my bags. The agency said I can go with my bags. No? I can have an extra bag, because an extra suitcase. And to tell you the truth, between me and you, when you are overseas, you don't need all these clothes. Now, when I'm at the airport, it was difficult. It was expensive. It was difficult to sort this issue of the third suitcase. Yeah. And then I traveled fine. I will record a video about the traveling, the plane, what to do, not to do on the plane, but I'm just summarizing this. So I was going to England, so my stop was going to be, my transit was going to be in Qatar. Sometimes when I fly overseas, my transit, it depends. There was time when my transit was in Ethiopia. There was time when my transit was in Germany. There was time when my transit was in Dubai. So it depends, really. So this time the transit was in Qatar. I don't know whether I was tired or it was the food eaten on the plane. Let's start about the things to pack before I go there. When you pack, make sure that your luggage is 23 kgs times 2 and a small bag. If it's not 23, you get a humiliation that I got of removing clothes from the airport. I always get it. I don't learn, you know. I don't learn. I always get this humiliation of being told that my luggage exceed. I even bought now at Game, you buy something to measure it. It's 160 rand, something like that, to measure the luggage. It's accurate. Have that if you are a traveler, and try and stick to it. Now, to cut the story short, the cosmetics and medication, pack them, and your pills and everything, pack them underneath the suitcase, because they would throw the medicines at the airport and the cosmetics. If they find them, they must be under the suitcase, in the suitcase that will check in. Okay? That was my story also of losing cosmetics and all of that. To one more thing now. Before you travel, make sure that you are not dehydrated, that you are healthy, that you have detoxified your body. And all of that. Also for dehydration, you can steam. I believe in steaming your face. Steam so that your face is not dehydrated. Something to detoxify. For me, it's just aloe, so that you are healthy, because there's a lot of energy and strength that is needed when you are traveling. But do not hide your own medication. If, let's say, you are on chronic medication, it's allowed, you can cross with it. If there's something I'm forgetting, I'll tell you, because now I will divert from the story if I start talking about the things you fly with. And then when we arrive in Qatar, my transit was in Qatar. Ne? When we arrived in Qatar, we waited, then we got the flight. So I was going to transit again in Ireland. I waited and waited. So at 11 p.m. at night or 10 p.m. at night, we were going to take a plane. I don't know what happened, whether I was tired or what. But when I stepped into the plane after boarding and doing everything, I got dizzy and I went like this. Then I sat down. And when I sat down because I was dizzy, or maybe I was I was also vomiting. I think it was food poisoning or something, I don't know. Then I ran to the toilet and I vomited and I vomited and I vomited. But after that, I became well. The airplane staff panicked and say I mustn't fly because if I get sick, there's no doctor on the plane. That's truth. There's truth in all the aircraft. There's no doctor, guys. Know that if you have your own chronic or your sickness or something that terrifies people, that there's no doctor. So get all your medication ready and everything. I'm sorry, I'm a bit tired. So I didn't want to because it meant the changes in my joining flight, changes in everything. I know it's quite an inconvenience if you change a flight. And they said in the morning they will put me in the first flight out, but I just have to see the doctor. I so wish I didn't listen to them. They were just convincing me. When I was out of the plane, things changed. So we waited a bit, so up until the ambulance came, then I was taken. They started to take blood pressures, all those things. Then I was taken to the hospital. It was just the most boring experience. There was nothing wrong with me. The next thing, they let me sit at the airport. Nobody's saying something. They see me, I'm back. Nobody's saying something. I'm sitting there, and I was hoping they will put me on the next flight to Ireland. They don't. I see people are boarding now. I asked them, will I be on that plane? They say no, otherwise you'll have to pay the difference. Then I lost it. Then I had an argument with them. I was crying and I was telling them how they are treating me badly. That's when now they let me stop sitting in the airport because I was sitting in those chairs that are uncomfortable. I'm tired. I'm coming from another country. So when I cried and I talked to them and whatever, they sent me to the lounge so that I can have a shower, food, and rest so that they can put me in the evening flight. So I've been taken out of the plane from 11 o'clock to take the flight, maybe 7 o'clock the next night. Okay, I got a chance to rest, and in the end I boarded a flight to Ireland so that I take a flight to England. When I arrived in Ireland, I was not aware that all my bags, remember they took me out with my bags, out of the plane with my bags. So I was not aware that my bags were not with me up until I arrived at the final destination, because you get your bags at the final destination. It has been my history as a traveler that if my suitcase, it doesn't have oil, is made dirty or whatever, it is open. So in managing the one of them opening your suitcase, I put a padlock. But because I had an issue of the suitcases at the airport, I didn't have a chance to wrap them because there were many, the money was not enough, things like that. What happened was that when I arrived, my suitcases were not enough. Do you know that when I called the airport, I also emailed the Qatar Airways, because I used, even though I used different flights, but I also used Qatar Airways mainly. My only aircraft changed in Ireland. Okay, my suitcases came after 2 days, all of them. I got two, one was missing. When that one came after 2 days, it was open. They broke the padlock. I don't know what they wanted. What I'm trying to say is, another advice, wrap your suitcases so that they don't open them, but wrap them after you've weighed them, because the worst thing you will have is to take those clothes out of the airport after you've wrapped it. Yeah. Then I started, I arrived in England, I was jet lagged, I was tired, all those things. The worst thing about coming to a new country, relocation is a process that takes your strength, that takes a strain on your mental health, and that stresses. But another issue is to look for accommodation because you are a foreigner. Accommodation was a problem for me, a huge problem. And accommodation is very expensive. Take note of that too, so that you are ready mentally. My journey has been different, and I'll be sharing a lot about also my work, how I've dealt with it, the challenges in my work, but the video will be too long and will not load if I talk about these issues one by one. But in summarizing my journey, how bad it has been, these things happen. Those are the realities that happen when you relocate to other countries. A month after I was here, my brother took his own life, and I had to go back to South Africa. There's nothing as painful as having a bereavement from home while you are far away from family. You don't know what to do. You don't know how to act. You don't know how to behave because you are with strangers. They might try to support you, but akufani. The second issue for me that it was a problem was to travel while in that state. I needed support, someone to tell me, pack this, pack this, pack this. Because I was alone, I didn't have someone to say, pack this, pack this. I found in London that I left my passport when I was going to bury my brother. That was the worst thing. And when I was told that there was nothing they could do, which was true, how was I going to come back without a passport if they allowed me to go, you know? When they told me, I was already looking for a reason to cry. I was even crying for my brother now. I cried, but I had to go back as exhausted as I was. Took a train again for another 4 hours and go back to England and travel after a day. I would like to mention how difficult transport was for me. I remember one day I was with someone that I lived with, who was also a foreigner who came to work. So we lived together and we didn't understand how transport works. We thought you just call a meter taxi and it comes. That was not like that. We were coming from training somewhere or a workshop. Then we decided to go for shopping, and we have a lot of shopping. And then we decided to call an Uber or a meter taxi. All Ubers were not available, and we were told they were full booked for the whole afternoon. You book an Uber. I'll never forget that day. I'll never forget that day. And then we have this trolley which is full. We don't get an Uber. We are 2 women. I'll tell you something of what happened. I go to the shop and I talk to the man there who was helping. And I say, can we please drive this, go with your trolley maybe for 30 minutes. We will bring it back because we're not getting taxis and we are stuck with grocery in town. The town is 30 minutes away from home. I'm telling you, we were those jokes that were pulling a trolley full of grocery in the streets of England. School children were coming out of school and we are different, we are black. These white children are laughing at us, thinking something is wrong with us. The situation was so stressful, and me not understanding how it works. When I see an Uber, I would say, stop, we need an Uber. They won't even stop and entertain me. They would pass. We drove for more than 30 minutes, pushed a trolley up until we reached home. Something that taught me that, especially if you're in England, you need to have a car full time. I'll talk about what happens when you relocate with children, what you need to prepare. My journey has not been the sweet one. It was filled with stress, with depression, because the brother that committed suicide, and I had to go back to South Africa, was the second brother that committed suicide in a year's time after the other one committed suicide. Meaning in 2022, I have a brother that killed himself. In 2023, I had a brother that killed himself. And I had to deal with grief issues away from home, feeling isolated, because immediately after the funeral, I have to go. This is something I also did after my mother passed on. I was in the middle of my thesis or dissertation. I left home immediately after that, and I had to grieve alone in another country. It took a toll on me. It made relocation difficult. We strive, we're here because there is a God. But we need to talk about these difficulties because it is not easy. So I will keep on empowering you. What happened when I came back from the funeral, how I dealt with the feelings away from home. And I don't blame the people who were foreigners like me, because they were not my friends in the first place. They were just foreigners like me. And people gave their advices, but some advices were not helpful to me, because some sounded like they are telling me how to grieve. And you can give me an advice, but don't tell me that I'm not supposed to grieve my brother. You don't know how close we were. You don't know me. You don't know us. That has been my journey, and I will soon record one on professional journey, how things have been at work, how the service users or clients treated me, how I felt like I was treated, how was work, what happened in child protection. I work in child protection. How different is child protection from the other services that are offered? People say child protection is difficult. Maybe it's not really difficult, but it's a bit complex. I'll be sharing with you. Please like, share, and comment. Take care of yourself. I love you. I'll be back to share more. Thanks. Tell others to come, and we talk. Love you.